going to have some delay issues, but it's okay.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
We're
Welcome
there.
back to Maple Syrup. We are back. We've had a little bit of a delay in hiatus and all that kind of stuff. I think we actually have a lag issue right now because I know that we are hearing a little bit of delay in the audio. So we'll see if that, solves itself over time as we proceed with the show. Welcome back. Hey, George, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Fresh off a trip to and back from Prague, which was really lovely.
Right, and where's Kat now?
Today she is in Dresden in Germany, because her visa appointment is today, or it will be in a few hours. But she's basically hanging out in Edinburgh in Scotland because she has to save that the Schengen visa time. It's complicated and annoying, but yes. So there you go.
At least she gets to see other parts of the world, right?
This is true. This is true. I mean, there are worse places to be.
All right. We also have here today, everybody. We have TK and Dennis. Howdy, how are you?
Hey, doing great.
And they're wearing all their merch, so
Yeah.
you can
This
tell
is
where
all the clothes
they're
we have.
Yeah.
It's all our closets are just full of this stuff. So,
It's easy to pack for trips.
that's right.
So, can you tell us a little about where you are from and what you are here for in terms of your origin story? Like, how did you guys get into gaming? Why game design, and why specifically like Galactic Cruise?
Sure. Yeah. I'll let Dennis start because his journey with games started long before mine did. So,
Sure. So yeah, my name is Dennis Northcott, and I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada. So we got some CanCon for you. I know you're always looking for more Canadians. So I mean, I started, I played board games as a kid, but really when I got into board games seriously, with the whole designer board games and playing consistently every Saturday with a group, it was about, I guess, getting close to 20 years ago now. And I first got into games a little bit differently than some. Like, a lot of times people talk about gateway games and people start with something easy and move in up to something else after that. Whereas I had played other card games, like I had played Bonanza previous to that, and like Killer Bunnies and stuff like that. But that never really hooked me. Like I enjoyed playing them okay, but it didn't really get me serious into games. I actually played a very heavy game from Fantasy Flight called Android, and this is like the original Android, not Android Netrunner, that most people know that one a little bit more. And that just blew my mind because it took us like 5 hours to learn it. It felt and it just did so many different things, and I had no idea that a board game could do that sort of thing. And so that really opened my eyes, and we started, like, when I say we, me and my group of friends started playing every Saturday, and I was buying games all the time, and we just kept playing anything I could get my hands on. And over the years, so I never originally wanted to get into game design necessarily. I just loved playing games, played them all the time. And more recently, it was like 2019, 2018-ish, that I decided to get into game design. And so kind of went from there. But maybe we'll
sure.
let you jump in.
Yeah. So, where his story ends is kind of where mine begins. So, prior to 2020, with COVID, like I had played very little like modern board games. Like I grew up playing, a lot of the standard mass market games. Like one of my favorite games was Payday. I loved Trouble. Loved the little thing in the what was it called? The Dice-O-Matic or something? The
Pop-O-Matic?
Popper.
Pop-O-Matic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in college, which would have been around 2012, somewhere in there, I was introduced to Catan, and a friend of mine took it on vacation with us, and we played it. And I was like, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever played." So I went home. It wasn't available anywhere, so I ordered it online. It took several weeks to come in. I got Seafarers and Cities and Nights, and the first night we got it, me and my friend played it 9 times in a row over the course of like 15 hours. Like it was just incredible. And then that kind of was yeah, like I was like, oh, this is a cool game. I didn't really think there were more, and so I didn't play much after that until 2020 came around. We were inside a lot more, playing more games. A friend of mine had Carcassonne, and that was the first time I had ever seen a meeple. And I was like, what is this little thing? And I was like, this is so cool. And so he bought our first worker placement game that we played together, which was Viticulture, and then we just kind of dove really deep in 2020 into board games. And I think the first one I bought was Terraforming Mars. So I kind of took a big leap, kind of like Dennis. Like the things that hooked me were like the very thinky, complex games. I really enjoyed those, and so started playing those. And yeah, just the friend of mine that got me hooked on these. We grew up making things together, films, books, movies, all kinds of things. And so, like, when we started playing games, we were like, oh, we should design games. So we started doing it, completely fell in love with it. And we're like, this is what we feel like we need to be doing. And so we just, dug in and I think probably had a dozen or so games on TTS until we landed on Galactic Cruise and felt like it was like a good game worth pursuing. And so along that process, we met Dennis at a Protospiel event. He became playtester, then developer, then owner of the company, and so just kind of worked his way in, and has been with us ever since. And so, yeah,
Infiltrated.
I always like to joke and say that the first time that we met him and he played Galactic Cruise, it literally changed his life because like he just that's what he does now. So
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And you have another partner in crime, do you? Is it
yeah,
like
so
three really?
that's right. So
Mhm.
that's the other guy I was talking about. That's Colton. He's the one who had Carcassonne and introduced me to that.
Mm,
The guy I grew up with. So Colton and I grew up together. He wasn't able to be with here tonight. Like he's been here the last few days with the Kickstarter, but I think tonight he's home with family. And so yeah, so there's the three of us, and Colton and I live here in Tennessee in the U.S.,
mhm.
which is where Dennis is visiting right now.
Yep.
I see, I see, I see. And how did that come to be with this like international cross-border relationship? Is it easy? Is it hard? Is technology like your best friend ever? Are you always on Zoom? What's going on?
So we're always on Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like basically every single day we're on a Discord call, almost almost the full like 8 hours or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, we're on Discord a lot. Do a ton of testing on Tabletop Simulator, so we're doing a lot of technology stuff. The most annoying part about cross border is less about like the game design and all that. It's more about like taxes and
Yeah,
things like that. That
sure.
is not helpful. And then I travel a lot, which honestly I don't mind. Like I enjoy it, but it is like I fly down to the States every month or two because there's the next convention to go to or whatever.
Right.
So that part adds
We need more
some extra wrinkles.
Canadian conventions.
Yeah, there's not
Yeah.
really. I'm assuming Toronto must have something because they're pretty big, but yeah, I'm not. There's a local one in Winnipeg that I go
There
to every
are.
year. But
Mhm.
like obviously all the big ones are down here. So
Yeah, yeah. Even the ones in the biggest cities like in Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver aren't even comparable in terms of magnitude to like Gen
yeah.
Con or anything like that. So
Mhm.
none of the industry events that also have like a public facing side of things would be comparable. There are industry events in Canada. It's just they're usually like business to business type events, like publishers showing games to retailers at Alliance Days or the equivalent of Alliance Days. So Asmodee or the Old Lion Rampant Days and things like that. So they do exist. It's just harder to get to, but there are new ones cropping up all the time because we have more and more fans of board games coming up.
Mhm.
We wanted to talk to you specifically. So, George, why did you want to talk specifically to the Galactic Cruise team or crew? I
Um,
guess we can call them the crew.
so it's sort of a two-part thing. And one, just I would love to have some insight into, because I mean, there was no like galactic rowboat before this. You went straight to this giant board game. So just the idea of like how you decided to jump in, you know, fully into a huge game, and also I would love some insight into, and we're going to have a sort of a two-parter thing about expansions and when you decided that you wanted to have an expansion to go with the Kickstarter. Um, you've done other ones since, like just how you plan that sort of thing. I'm beginning to ramble, but yeah. So
Sure.
one, how you decided to do a big game, and two, how you decided to make it even bigger.
Yeah, I think so. It kind of started out as a big idea. So it started out as a text message. I texted Colton and I was like, "I've got an idea for a game. It's about going on space cruises, worker placement. You're building the ships, managing your resources, that kind of thing." And so we just fell in love with the idea, the concept, and I started working on it, putting it together for TTS. And it kind of evolved as like our gaming experience evolved because it started very early in our like deep dive into the heavier board games. And so like it started out very similar in worker placement style to Viticulture because that was like the worker placement game that we had played and we had loved. And at the time that we had started it,
Mhm.
neither of us had played a Vital Lacerda game, which a lot of people kind of compare to these days. And so like as we started to play more heavier games like some Rosenberg and Pfister and Lacerda and Shim Phillips and Sam McDonald games, like we fell in love with what they were doing with games. And so as we would play a new game, we would be like, oh, that would be cool. How can we integrate that into Galactic Cruise in a new, fresh way? And so the game over the course of development kind of took on different shapes based on what we were playing and what we were learning about board games. And so I would say it started out as just kind of a big idea that didn't really work. Like the first time that Colton and I played together, we played 4 hours, a two-player game, and played like half the game. Like it was like very much a simulation. Like there was a lot of math involved of like the fuel costs and equations, and so like we took it very heavy to begin with and really dialed it back. But yeah, I think there wasn't necessarily an intention to make it the weight that it is, but it just kind of evolved as that was kind of the season of game design or game playing that we were in, and it kind of took on those forms of what we were seeing and experiencing.
Hmm.
I,
I mean, I get it. Like you're influenced by outside sources, and that's totally fine. That's a great way to really capture a vibe. And if you're into playing those games, why not make something that's
Sure.
like
It's very
that?
sorry.
Sorry,
I want
George,
to
I
say it's
interrupted
very
you.
heartening to hear that your original versions were also much like many of mine, like 4 hours long. And you only got through half of it because it's entirely an unrelatable experience. I've no
Yeah, it's
nothing like that. No, for
yeah,
me.
like it works so perfect in your mind.
Yes.
It's like you
Right?
play through it all, and then you sit down, and you're like, "This is terrible." Like, how do we take what we have and like make it into something that's palatable?
I think
But
one of the best things that you can learn while designing a game and playtesting is knowing when to stop.
Mm,
Like
Yeah,
if the
mm.
game as it is isn't working, it's taking 4 hours. You don't have to finish it.
right.
Like
no.
you can stop and say, "What should
Mm.
we change?"
Yeah,
You stop
Yep.
right in the
And you
middle.
can continue from there, or you can revamp the whole
Great
thing,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. That's a really good point, Dennis.
Mm.
That knowing when to stop, knowing when to call it quits, even if it's not your game, like when you're playtesting somebody else's game,
Mhm.
knowing when to like, you should get a sense of, oh, the rest of the game is just going to be the same thing over and over again. We don't really need to play it to fruition, do we?
Yeah.
yeah.
You
We've
can
had
ask
we've had
that
to do
question.
that quite a bit because we've gotten a lot of like submissions for people who want to submit us games, and like we've gotten I think really good at getting to a point in the game, and we ask the question, do you feel like we've seen most of the stuff in the game?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
it's like if we've seen most of the things, then it's like there's really no sense in going because like any feedback we would have at that point wouldn't change. So it's like, have you seen everything you want us to see? Then that's a great place to stop and
Hmm. Those that just comes with experience too, right? Can we go back to like the impetus for Galactic Cruise? Like, why cruise ships? Like, were you watching Wall-E or something? I don't. Where
yeah.
did it all
So
come from?
I've always been a fan of like space and space travel, and huge fan of cruises. Like I haven't gone on very many. Dennis is the cruise guy,
Yeah.
but like I love that idea of traveling to space. Like I would love to do it one day if that's ever possible in a very safe manner, of course. But like just to do that and go on a trip, like I love it. Like I love that just as an idea of
You
something
just
that
got to
I
become Katy Perry.
exactly right. Now that she's an astronaut, it's very cool. And so yeah,
Sky's
like it just
literally the
came
limit.
from a
Today.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just it came from a love of both of those things, and it seemed unique. Like there are some games that deal with space. Um, like I know there was like a hotel, like a game about space hotels, and of course there's tons of space games, flying in ships and
Mhm.
things like that. But there didn't seem to be too many about specifically like a cruise ship going into space. And I was like, oh, that's a unique theme. Could have a unique title. It's something I'm very interested in. So it just seemed like a good fit, from that
And
perspective.
I think it's going to happen in our lifetimes too. there would be an actual company that does it, you know?
Yeah, and so hopefully it's a theme that, many people might latch onto or even know more about in the coming years, which could be, very helpful.
Mhm.
Mhm. There's this podcast I was listening to that is about like how billionaires, like multi, really rich people vacation. And some of those things are like really out there. Like you think they're out there, but it's like, wait a minute, people actually do things like that. Like one guy,
Mm,
he was rich enough that he could pay the city of Paris to build a room in the Arc de Triomphe, the arc that's in the center circle, that nobody could see into, but they could see out of, to celebrate his like 25th anniversary.
wow,
Huh.
Like that's how rich some people are. So
that's
if the
crazy.
technology exists, you can guarantee there's going to be things like that, right? And
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's other stories like that where it's like this crew that goes down in a submarine, and it's all rich people in the submarine, and that's what airplanes used to be like too, right? When it's like all fancy and you get up, and air travel was like for only rich people. And
Hmm.
Titanic, pre-Titanic years, like of sailing on an actual like cruise ship was this big deal. You got all fancified for it. So yeah,
Right.
I can see that going
Mhm.
on a galactic cruise does sound pretty cool. Does sound pretty cool.
Yeah, as long as the ticket prices are
In terms,
reasonable or there's a red flight,
Yes.
a red eye, like that would be great.
right. So in terms of going from your giant 4-hour behemoth that you only played half of to what we see today, which is still a behemoth. Don't get me wrong;
Yeah.
it's still a big, crunchy game. It's not a luxury liner. What did it take? What did it take for you guys to pare everything down? Because now, today, as of today, you're building more onto it. But how did you pare it
Right.
down to a point where you were happy with this is the core experience that we want?
I think the biggest thing for us was just playtesting it a lot. I think before it hit Kickstarter, we had playtested it between 4 and 500 times, and that was usually, like, at least half a game up to a full game, and that was with probably 3 to 400 different people. So we tried more than anything to play it with new people just because we wanna make that first experience great. And so playing it with new people really shows like how you can overcomplicate things. I think Evan Halbert once said that he called it design creep, where you start to play with the same group of people
Mhm.
and it starts to become easy for you, and so you start adding stuff to it. And so like that was really helpful. He was a play tester and kind of pointed out some stuff for us with that. But like just getting it in front of new people and seeing their interpretation and how they kind of respond to like all this stuff at once up front can really show you, what you need to pull back or what you need or don't need. And then just getting feedback, right? It's like, what do you like? What do you don't like? And if, there's a bunch of people who say they don't like something, you can cut it. Or if you cut something and, other people don't care that you cut it, that's a great sign. So we just did a lot of that, like adding and taking away and adding and taking away until we felt like what was there was all meaningful, and worth having.
Well, there's a lot of things
Mhm.
that were there that we loved and we wanted to keep in, but it wasn't part of like the core experience. So that's the origin of like the first two expansions, were things that like
Right.
were at one point in time we were testing as maybe part of the base game, the normal game,
Hmm.
um, but we removed it so that we could get like the core experience as good and streamlined and everything as possible. Um, but then add in those modules as optional expansions. So you don't have to keep in, even if you love ideas, it doesn't have to be in there. It could be something that is like allows people to kind of work their way up to it rather than throwing them in the deep end.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you just said. So there's definitely that design creep is a real problem. Like we had that at a point where we've been playing with the same group so many times that I think I've told this story before, that we broke Matt Leacock's brain. Basically, Matt's like, "This is way too much for anybody to learn at once." And we're like, "But our playtesters understand it, and they're not Matt Leacock, so what's going?" And
Yeah.
basically, we just threw the kitchen sink at the game, well, kitty, where we probably shouldn't have, right? The other thing that I like that you said was about, and this is kind of what prompted our conversation in the first place, George, was the idea of like expansions that you don't need to have a good experience, but once you have more experience in the base game, they're an easy add. They don't really add much more time or components, but you learn the game, and they enrich the experience. And now, maybe years or so, publishers are doing things like box expansions, or they sell this game on Kickstarter with expansions ready made. And if so, why do you think that is? Why would publishers be motivated to do something like that? Do you think?
You're saying to like sell them at the same time as the launch of the base game?
Yeah. Like
Yes.
launching with the base game, or even in the box of the main game,
Oh,
like
right.
an in-box expansion is a big ask from a lot of publishers. Are like, yeah, we like it if it's a game and there's an in-box expansion, so the game works without it, but
Mhm.
with it, and it's not a big thing to put right in the box, they could level up their game, right?
I think there's a desire for people to have more replayability than they can actually handle, if that makes
I
sense.
think
Almost
so
like
too.
going to a
It
No,
does,
you're
buffet
right.
yes.
and being
Yeah.
like, I got to put all of these things on my plate, even though I know I can't eat all of them. Um, and so I think
Good
just from a
analogy. Love it.
from the consumer perspective, it elevates it somehow.
Mhm.
Like for me, I'm one of those people who buy tons of games and I'll play them once or twice. And
Right.
so like, I'm usually learning the game, watching tons of videos. That way, when I play it the first time, I know it really well because I'll probably only get one play out of it. But there's still a part of me that wants to know that all this stuff can be different and change, and I think a lot of people are
Mhm.
like that too. And so I think it's a perception thing to have that stuff in there. But for us with the Kickstarter, like it's just another thing to kind of build out the bundles that people can get, because with
Right.
Kickstarter people are often wanting to go all in, wanting all this stuff. And because we knew we liked those items that were in the expansion, we wanted to give people the opportunity to buy them, because a lot of them were, like Dennis said, we were playtesting with them in the base game. And when we pulled them out, we had a lot of people be like, oh, I missed that. I really like that. And so we thought they were worth having for people to get.
Mhm.
And we thought just with the Kickstarter platform, having the different tiers and bundles, it just kind of made sense for us at the start to kind of move forward with those, mainly because we did want them to fit in the box. And so we felt kind of weird just doing base game with a ton of space that would take years to fill it. And so we just, I think, wanted to do it on the front end.
Yeah.
Mhm. George, what are your thoughts on like in-box expansions with the game on Kickstarter? Or do you think that people would be better served of getting a base game and then running a second or third Kickstarter with the second and third expansions and being able to sell more base games that way? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think history has shown that offering them with the initial Kickstarter seems to be the way to go these days. It still feels, maybe I'm old. It still feels weird to me that like if you have the expansion done at the same time you have the base game done, then is it an expansion? But you've basically
Mm-hmm.
just described like that sort of logical separation of the core experience, and then if you've played that enough that you're ready for something more, and looking at then it's good to have this secondary thing, and looking at it from that perspective sort of I feel a bit better about it in a sense. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah. um I am curious how far through the design development cycle of Galactic Cruise were you before you, well, I guess I've sort of answered my own question because you said your expansion was sort of what you pulled out of the game and then sort of made it its own separate entity. But like, did you expand on that beyond? Was it just some things you extracted from the core game, or were there other things you tossed in there once you realized you had to extract something?
I think most of it was, I would say like
Most of it.
80% was stuff we pulled out that
Yeah.
we had already play tested that we loved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then probably 20% of like, okay, if we want these to be two separate standalone expansions, are there other things we could add that people would love that would add some more variability to the game that we think would fit with these kind of two identities that we've created with the different modules that we have? So I would say
Mm.
most of them,
Yeah.
yeah.
Creating like the new cards, new expert abilities, new technologies, things like that, like extra things to round out the expansion. Some of
Mm.
that might have come after, but a lot of the modules were things that we were already testing. And just to the previous point, like one of the reasons that we had, like we already talked about it, like bringing it back to the base game, but also like it was all done at the same time, so we could have included all of that stuff in the base game, but then that would have raised the price of the base game quite a bit more. So this is kind of trying to give you the best option of having a lower price of entry for the people that just want the base stuff, and it's already a great experience that could be played many times over. But if you want the extra modules, want the extra variability, you can add those in if you'd like. So adding it into everyone would just mean that the cost would go up for everyone, even if you didn't end up ever playing with that. So I think there's definitely some trade-offs.
I'm curious, and if you don't know this off the top of your head, that's fine. But like, from the initial Kickstarter, do you know roughly how many people who bought the base game also bought the expansion with it?
I think it was around like 90%
It was
or more.
the
Okay,
vast
that's kind of what I
majority of
expect.
people.
Yeah.
Vast
Yeah,
majority of people
yeah.
get like everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know we did.
It is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure that's why like a lot of publishers will ask designers to like, do you have an expansion ready for it? Because if they're going to go and make a big campaign and put a lot of time and effort into a campaign, and for those of you who out there who like have never run a Kickstarter campaign, it's not a small task, right? And so you don't want to
Nope.
necessarily have to roll up a new campaign each time
Mm.
if you could do it at once and catch all those people while they're hot for that product, right? So I mean, it is working on psychology. It's working on fear of missing out. It's also psychology on the part of the publishers. Like, we may never get another kick at the can to publish this game, to publish the expansions. And especially with the games I work on, a lot of them are IP related. So it's like, we might not have the IP in 3 years. Like, so what are we going to do? So a lot of times it is that kind of thing. So Dennis and TK, when you pulled stuff out of the main game and kind of said, okay, here's this little, baby that we can kind of nurture into its own thing. Did you find that you were able to like see new ways of doing things? Like, was it actually easier to realize the product when it's taken out of the big main game and to like flesh it out into like something cooler? Or was it just like, oh yeah, these are like, you could insert this or take it away, put it back in. It's like a module.
I think most of them felt more like modules that you could
Mhm.
pull out. Like I would say, of course, as we would, play test and we would cut stuff, it would, of course, have multiple effects on many other things that we would kind of have to shift and adjust if it didn't exist in the game. Yeah, I think most of them kind of felt like modules, which is probably why they just made their way to an expansion because it was like, does the game really need this? It's like the answer is no, but we love playing with it, and we have people who also love playing with it. So that's kind of how it made its way into an expansion. So I don't think necessarily anything that we pulled out really greatly shifted things. But they did just kind of have that module feel from the beginning as we were adding and taking away stuff to try it.
I do find it really interesting
Yeah, and
that. Oh, sorry. I do find it really interesting that so many people, we see different posts and people talking about discussions, and they'll say, "Oh, this I don't like this module at all, but I love this one." And somebody's like, "I play with that module every single time." Like, it kind of allows people to create their own whatever they prefer playing with, and it's just so often people have the exact opposite opinions. So
I
lets people do
do
their own thing.
appreciate that. Yeah, because yeah, you're right. Because some people, and it's actually really hard to take things out of a game if you don't know how the game's designed, right? If you're not the game designer, like it's actually hard to kind of like, what do I take out to reduce whatever I don't like about this particular thing? But when it's nice and plug and play modular, like you guys have done, then it does kind of make it this like experience that you can craft to the preferences of the table, right? When you give them that buffet that you're talking about, that smorgasbord, then they can like put a little more of tater tots on there instead of whatever else, deviled eggs that they don't like, right? So yeah, that's really cool. We have a comment here from one of the people who's watching. This is Kerfcut Luke, who was a guest on the show a little while back. He said that he got Galactic Cruise for his birthday, and he says it's top quality production. And he also said that the insert is great, and he wanted to know how you designed something like that. Like, do you design it and make the box around it? Were there cardboard or 3D printed mock-ups? How'd you do it?
If I knew the answer to that, we would make them ourselves. No, we used Game Trays. So Noah at Game Trays did ours. He did an incredible job. We love them. Dennis can probably speak more to it because like he did a lot of 3D printing with them.
So yeah, the design of them, Game Trays did that. So we didn't do any of that in house. Although at the same time, like you're asking about, do you design the box around it? So the box size wasn't exactly set until the trays were set, and the trays couldn't be set until the exact size of like all the tiles and different things could be set. So definitely you design the tray, and then the box will accommodate that. And even though he did do the design and definitely he did most of the work there, I think it is important for the publisher, designer, whoever else, to kind of look at what they've made and make sure that it works for what you want to do. So Game Trays did not do any 3D printing originally, but I was 3D printing. Like I'd get him to send me the files of here's what he's designed, and I would 3D print it, and then make sure that it works exactly how we want it to work and how to fit in the box. And there was a lot of things originally. The first designs for some of the trays that held the blueprints and things like that, we completely changed the design of them because it was going to make the box too big, or it was harder to play with them on the table. And there's a lot of things that if you just go with kind of the first thing, here's an insert that holds everything and it's great and it looks cool, that still may not be the best result. And it's like, just because you can make a plastic tray for everything, should you? So if anyone was following Galactic Cruise closely before, like we had plastic trays to hold our blueprints, and in the final version they were cardboard trays, and that was just, it made it way more compact, and we could fit a lot more into a much smaller box. Like even though it's a big box, like anyone knows that it's not a tiny game, but
it was going to be like
it was going to be a big box.
I think it was going to be 40 millimeters taller.
Yeah,
with the original tray design.
And so it was like there's no way we can do that.
And we were like, we've got to go back to the drawing board. What can we like do to condense it? And so he rearranged a bunch of stuff. We 3D printed a bunch of stuff and finally came to like a good concise.
And yeah, we're doing our own mock-ups to see how things could be organized in the box to make it fit more efficiently. And Noah was like especially proud of those trays he designed, and they were really cool, but it was just like, it's too much. Like we can't have it be that big.
Yeah, he designed these really cool trays that he was like, these are like some of the best things I've ever done.
He's like,
scrapping them.
He did a great job, and we're like, we're not using those. Yeah. So I think it's a combination.
Yeah,
a combination. Making sure that you got someone who knows what they're doing designing them, but then also that you're taking all that into consideration for the final product. And we're both. Not that any other publishers aren't, but we're both, big gamers ourselves. So we want it, like, if I was the one buying this game, what would I want out of my storage solution and my tray? And so we tried to, do as much as we could to make that experience the best as possible.
Yeah. I think too many people forget that unboxing and setting up and packing up are still part of the whole game experience. And if you don't like them, it can mean a game sits on the shelf instead of sitting on the table or coming to the table. Luke, if you're interested in what Noah does, or other tray designers do, there is a really old episode of Maple Syrup where we interview Noah from Game Trays. There's an episode of of Ludology where I interview Iron Kitty, who does trays as well. There's like 2 or 3 people who do like just tray design, and it is a feat of engineering because it's not just storage. It's like you said, it's function on the table itself, like passing it around, flipping, like pressing down so things pop up. Making sure that everything is very functional, more than just like storage, right? It's a gameplay solution as well.
I mean, you don't get that.
Really elevates things.
I think we've all bought a game where you have that terrifying feeling where you turn it sideways and there's just a cascading shuffle, and you're like, oh no, I don't want to open this box again.
Yeah. So good solutions, good storage solutions are kind of worth their weight in gold. The unfortunate thing is that they do, sometimes cost a lot of plastic, which, we can talk about that when we talk about Daybreak sometime, right? I played Daybreak over the the Labor Day weekend when I was at Grand Con, and it looked like an educational game. Like it is an educational game. Let's not
Mhm.
mince words. It is an educational game, but it looked like one of those games that you would take off the shelf at in grade 6 and then immediately put back on the shelf because it was like this just looks like it's made for only learning about the world and climate change and how we could perhaps do something about it. It's a hopeful game actually. You should take a look at it because it is a really good design. Just as a game that is not necessarily made for gamers, that is made to teach something with intention, and that follows through on all of its own promises in terms of minimizing, if not eliminating, plastic, making sure everything is as compostable as possible. They think about what is the end life of this game box?
Mm.
It's in compost or it's recyclable or whatever, right? Anyways, we're diverging because Galactic Cruise is all about flying through space. It's a totally different game. So where are you guys now in Kickstarter land? You guys launched when? Like 2 days ago?
We did yesterday, so we're about
Oh yeah, it's
a day
Wednesday.
and a half in. Yeah,
Yep.
And fully funded again.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
been great.
That's awesome.
So,
That is excellent. And what is the main core thing that you are putting out this time? So obviously, people who are new to Galactic Cruise can get the base game, but as we know in Kickstarter land, you cannot just reprint the same thing over and over through Kickstarter. So what's the addition this time?
Yeah, so it's a expansion called Achievements. It's quite a bit bigger than the first two.
Okay.
So like we wanted to give people kind of more of an experience, like you talk about the kind of experience when you're playing the game, and so we wanted to incorporate that a little more in a thematic way instead of just giving like, hey, here's more stuff to throw in the game and add an hour to your playtime. Like we didn't want to do that because it already is a long and big game,
Mhm.
and so we didn't want a sideboard that you had to have another table for and all that. And
Yes.
so
My living room
something
thanks you.
yeah, something that we did during playtesting that we loved was we often gave Dennis challenges to try and accomplish because he's a savant at playing games. He always wins. Like he's incredible. Great at breaking games and finding strategies and winning. Um, and so I think all the games we've played this week you've won. Is that right? No, Charity beat you.
Yeah.
So my wife beat him at Andromeda's Edge when we played it yesterday, but it was like the first time I think he had played it. So anyway, he usually wins.
A little
And so we
asterisk
gave
next to that
yeah,
win.
we gave him these challenges to like pursue this strategy very specifically to make sure it's viable and see if you can break it, see how it works. And so we did that throughout the game. So every time we'd play test, we'd give him a challenge like you can't build your developments or you can only launch small ships or like you've got to do these certain things. And so it was really fun to play like that. And so we thought it would be really cool to incorporate that into an expansion. And
Mhm.
so kind of the theme around achievements is the board has given you these achievements to try and go after to try and accomplish to prove that Galactic Cruise is still number one in space travel as these competitors have kind of come out. And so you've got a list of these 12 things that you're trying to accomplish that are quite difficult to do and may push you in a direction that you wouldn't normally play the game
Right.
in. So it allows you to kind of explore strategies. And so every time you accomplish an achievement, you open a box of new content. So it's kind of campaign adjacent. Like you don't have to play with the same group. It's not narrative driven, but you unlock boxes as you accomplish these goals. And so we thought that would be a cool way to approach it by kind of introducing that thing that we did during playtesting that was really fun, just because it's always fun to try and accomplish something when you're playing a
Mhm.
game outside of just winning, getting your highest score, but doing something in the game that you maybe haven't done or tried before. And so we thought that was a cool way to do it. And of course, people love opening boxes and getting new content. Again, kind of the modular aspect. So as you open boxes, you can continue to play with them and add them, or you can plug and play them, on their own or in future games without the achievements. Just kind of approach it how you'd like. So that's kind of
That's
the
really neat.
kind of the general idea of it.
Mhm.
I think there's something really fascinating there in that you're giving people permission to play the game in different ways, in a sense, that where they might not approach it because they're comfortable with a certain way to go, but suddenly you give them this opportunity to approach it from a different way. yeah, I think it's a really neat
Yeah,
idea.
people get rewarded for taking risks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like shooting the moon in like spades or
Right.
hearts,
Yeah.
hearts and hearts, where you shoot the moon, right? I love that kind of play where there are other things that make you feel like you win, even if you may not have won the whole game.
Yes,
You
the
know,
big
Mhm.
moments.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Well,
I
what
still got these 3 achievements that I've never
Yeah.
done before.
Mhm.
That's awesome, right?
What's interesting to me, we had other playtesters play the game as well with try to do these different achievements and everything, and you definitely want like you're just like I'm not going to do my normal strategy because I want to unlock this achievement, and that
Yeah.
can be really fun on its own.
Mm.
But some of my favorite comments that I had from some of the playtesters were like, "Oh, I didn't want to do this because I didn't think you would score me much, but I wanted to get the achievement, and then I
Mm.
ended up scoring more than I've ever scored." Like things that you didn't realize you were
Mhm.
overlooking,
Mhm.
and
Right.
sort of
Like in
try to
past
get you to
games.
Mhm.
yeah, they try to get you to play it in different ways to see
Ah.
all the different things that you can do in the game that you may not have initially realized, and they're not necessarily bad strategies to win. They're not
Right.
necessarily always the best either, but a lot of them like might be better than you'd think. So
Or
it was
might be
really
better than the
fun to
ones
hear
you
some of
already
those
know,
comments.
right?
Mm.
It's like instead of spamming the low kick button in Street Fighter,
Exactly.
maybe use the high punch. Maybe use the
Yeah,
high
like
punch.
what happens if someone comes along that knows how to counter that? Well, it doesn't work so
Right,
well anymore. So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a really nice way of like exploring the system, right?
Hmm.
Through
Mm.
achievements. I think that's a lovely way of doing that. Giving people other goals, trying to maybe push them to work in alternate directions or alternate strategies than what they might normally be more um, apt to do, I think is a really good way of promoting play. That kind of thing. Like I'm not huge on expansions, even though like TK, I will buy everything for a game because I'm cheap.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff where it's not actually adding new rules, really, but it's adding like it's making me play in a different way. I think
Hmm.
that is fascinating and smart, and a really interesting way to just expand gameplay without having to really expand gameplay much at all,
Right.
right? Just give me a challenge. Tell me how to play in a different way. Um, and yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting way of getting more mileage out of the same game. Right.
Right.
It's surprising how effective. Like I think the first time I encountered that, and I might have this wrong, but I think it's Meadow has like a set of cards in it. Like you have to play the game on certain days of the year, and then
What?
you get to add this card to the. And this is ridiculous. Whenever I saw it, I'm like, this is silly. Until my friend brought it, like it's April 2nd. I really need to play this game, so I can add this card,
That's
and I'm like, you
amazing.
know what? I'm in. And
Huh.
yeah, these little I keep coming back to the word permission, but yeah, to get the game back on the table, to try something new. It's
Well,
amazing
it
how
is. It is.
effective they can be.
It is
Mhm.
permitting play. Like
Mm.
I think people are very bad as we get to being a more adult.
Mm.
We're very bad at free play, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so we do actually need that permission.
Mm.
It's a great word. Like if you look at like Huizenga's magic circle concepts, right? It's that is permission to be playful within the context of the magic circle or the game. And I think when games can do that with themselves, it's like very meta, right? It's like here's a way to do this in a different way. And as a magic player, George, you know that today I think I'm going to play with this color deck. I'm going to play with a deck that doesn't do any direct damage, or I'm going to play with only a deck that summons 1/1 creatures, and then I'm going to like try to sacrifice them all to do like a huge damage attack. Like those types of playful things are why certain games have the lifespan that they do, and I think Magic gives like an amazing amount of permission, and board games typically don't because they're more of a closed system, right? But things like that, where it's like on April 2nd, you get this
Yeah.
extra card. It's like, what is up with that? That is a nutty way of doing it, but it's lovely. And
Yeah.
then achievements and other things to do. Um, yeah, I think that is really neat because a lot of that also doesn't get into scope creep or design creep,
Mm.
right? Like you were talking before, like you don't really have to test those achievements. You just either did them or you didn't. You might have to test, how appropriate are they? How can they be accomplished? Or
Right.
if they're all worth different amounts of points, what do you get because you accomplished, achievement A versus achievement B, and achievement B is much harder. What do you get that's different? But in effect, you're just, pushing play styles, right? Which
Right.
is very,
Exactly.
very cool. Yeah. Neat, neat, neat stuff. So, what is next for Kinson Key Games? And before you answer that, why Kinson Keys? I actually always wondered that.
Yeah. So the KIN is
Yes,
the first three letters of my last name,
yes, that
and
is
the
true.
SON is the last three of Colton's last name. His last name's Thompson.
Yes.
And so Kinson, and then we needed an alliteration, so we said Key, but now we just say that
I'm the
Dennis.
key.
Yeah, so the name existed before Dennis, but now we just say that he is the key. So yeah,
Oh, I
to
see.
the whole
To unlock
operation.
all of your hearts.
Yeah.
That's right.
Little heart. Amazing. Okay, so what is next for this intrepid band of intergalactic travelers?
Yeah, so we've announced one game. We've got kind of three in the pipeline for the next few years that we've. So the next three are games we've signed
Right.
that we haven't developed in house. So the one that we've announced so far is called Monoman, the food that grows on water. It's designed by a guy named Mystiki. I met him at Proto ATL. I think you met him at Proto Minneapolis.
Protospill, yeah.
And so it was a new designer who's designed a few games, and we played one of his and fell in love with it at Protospill last year, I believe, early last year, and then thought about it for a long time, and then signed it at the end of last year. So that'll be our next thing after this expansion for Galactic Cruise, which should hopefully hit crowdfunding probably late next year. But it's a kind of medium heavy Euro game about wild ricing, and so the theme is based around the Ojibwe tribe. So it's the tribe that the designer is in. Back around the 1400s, had this vision to move west to find a food that would grow in water. And so they moved. They found this rice that grows in really shallow waters around lakes. They called it Monoman. And so every year they would gather together in these ricing camps to harvest it and process it. And so building the tools to process it, going out in the canoe, raking it into your canoe, bringing it back to camp, processing it, then using it for various things. And so the game just kind of encompasses that whole ricing camp. So it takes place on one
I
season.
love it.
And so, yeah,
really
we
cool.
fell in love with the theme.
Hmm.
Mr. Key is incredible as well as a designer. And so we love the theme. It felt unique, but also was like very thematically integrated. And
Yeah.
so, like, the materials you're using are the real materials. You would build the tools you've got to build to process the rice. Like, it's kind of a procedural thing, which, works for heavier, complex
Yeah,
games.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's the next one. Like, it is a little lighter than Galactic Cruise. Like, I would say probably closer to Terraforming
I
Mars
think
range.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's
Not
like
everything has to be in this giant
Exactly.
box that
Yeah.
could have been 4 centimeters higher, right?
Yeah, our goal is like a game that Galactic Cruise fans will love, but also, is just slightly more approachable for somebody who might be scared of Galactic Cruise and those heavier games. So yeah, it would sit around, that Terraforming Mars weight of gameplay
Yeah.
with probably some modules expansions probably down the road that could amp it up, of course. But initial will be a little lighter. But yeah, we fell in love with the theme and are very excited for it.
Did you know? I don't know if you know this, Dennis. You might know this because you live in and around the area. That there are currently, I don't know if they're currently still going on, but there were lawsuits in and around that area of the world by Anishinaabe bands who were suing on behalf of the lakes. Like the lake has rights in American court because the harvest of wild rice the yield has gone down and down and down. Of course it has, right? With industrialization. And it's actually fascinating stuff. And I'm so glad this game is being made by somebody who can speak to it, because I've wanted to make a game like that for many, many months.
Amazing.
Yeah, about specifically, like, rice. I like rice, but wild rice specifically because Canadian. And then also, I think it is a really important thing to talk about in terms of Indigenous ways of learning and how the land, is something that we should be stewards of. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's a great way to expose people to those things that are, perhaps a little bit forgotten by certain parts of the population. So I love it. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So cool. What about your other games? You said there's 2 or 3 more, right?
Yeah, so the other two we haven't announced. So those are again medium, in the range of medium to heavy games, Euro strategy games, very thematic. The code names for them, one is called Excursions, and the
Okay.
other one is called Haven. Those are the
Okay.
code names. I know it doesn't mean
Codename
anything,
Haven,
but
codename
that's
Excursion.
those are the code names for
If
'em.
you watch us 3 years from now, you'll understand.
Yeah,
Right, right, right.
it'll all
Sure.
make sense. But
Yeah.
we're really excited for both those as well.
Very cool. And so do you think that you guys are gonna sit, like, within that medium to heavy range all the time? Is that the goal for Kinson Keys?
Yeah, at the moment, that's the goal. So like our kind of big pillars are medium to heavy, very thematic, and then strategy Euro. And currently right now with most of them, we're leaning very heavy on positive player interaction. Like none of them have like combat or like,
Take that
direct,
type stuff.
yeah, anything
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. So they're all very positive interaction. Monoman even more so than Galactic Cruise. So Galactic Cruise has it with the bumping and how the
Mhm.
systems work. But Monoman, just because of the theme, like it was a very
Mhm.
social thing, everybody working together. So it is competitive, but it's very much positively interactive.
Right.
And so kind of those are the big things that most of our games will have,
Okay.
going
And so
forward.
no pure co-op yet?
Not yet.
No,
Mm-mm.
Okay.
not against it, but
Yeah,
No.
like there's a lot of things that we might end up pursuing. It's like, I mean, we're lovers of all types of games, but we wanted to, really kind of hone in our market and our
Yeah.
crowd and our community and kind of serve them. And so that's kind of where we're at. But, I
Fair
could see us,
enough.
trying, different stuff down the road.
yeah.
Cool.
George, do you have any other questions for our lovely, lovely guests?
I am curious, from the story to when you decided basically that you weren't interested in just making a game, but actually being publishers, because it sounds like at some point you must have said, we're going to take pitches. So how did that happen?
Yeah, so two different perspectives here. I'll let
Okay.
Dennis talk about that in a second. But Colton and I always set out to be a publisher. Like that was our
Okay.
our aim. So we had a small card game that we had on Kickstarter right when COVID hit. Like I think we had 100 backers. It was just like a pick up and deliver kind of resource game. Don't
Mhm.
look it up. It's terrible. Just put it out of your mind. But that was that was
This
that
does
was
not
like
exist.
our
This does not
that was our
exist.
first taste of like taking like like I said, we grew up making things, so we had made games and played them with our friends. But that was the first time we made something that we kind of put out for people to play.
Right.
Mhm.
And so that was our first taste of publishing in a sense. Like we printed, I don't know, 120 copies. Hand mailed them ourselves, and just fell in love with the process from
Okay.
concept to finished product to shipping it to marketing it, like the whole thing. And so like from that moment we knew like we would love to be publishers as a full-time career one day. So that's kind of what we set out to do. We knew it would take many years to get there. And so just kind of started designing stuff and play testing it and hoping one day we'd have a game like Galactic Cruise that would kind of allow us to do that. So from the beginning for us that was the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, but for me, I was only looking to be a game designer, mainly because there were certain things that I am maybe really good at, but I knew that to succeed as a publisher, I would need to do certain things that I'm not good at. And one of those things is being active on social media and marketing and all that. I'm not really into that. And so, Sen, I just want to say hello. You sent a Facebook message. I'm not ignoring you. I just
I
am
know.
never on Facebook.
I know. That's
Uh,
actually the first Facebook message I read of yours is like, if you know me, you know that I'm not on Facebook often, but I'm posting. This is like a 3-year-old post. I don't even know when I
yeah,
posted
yeah,
it, but
yeah.
that's literally what it said. Is I said, I'm gonna just poke him just in case.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you ever message me, I'm not ignoring you. I don't check it very often. But I knew that to succeed as a publisher, you have to have a presence. You have to be creating, your community and all that. And so I didn't initially set out to be a publisher, but when I met TK and Colton, it kind of became a thing where, hey, they're both really good at that stuff, and there are things that I can bring to the table, and like I would never do this alone, but as a team, it's fantastic. And anybody that does game publishing by themselves, I don't know how you do it, because it's kind of crazy, and having a team is just so great to have other people to rely on, and to have people play to their strengths and have be able to be able to do all the things that you need to do to succeed. But yeah, so that's why I didn't intend to do it, because I knew that if I tried myself, I would not have succeeded. But it just kind of, we fell into a really good partnership. It just kind of worked out. I definitely didn't intend to do this when I set out. I just wanted to make fun games.
He hates
So.
waking up every morning and having to get on Discord and chat
No,
about.
love all that now, but definitely anyone, if anyone ever asks me like, oh, like I'm trying to pitch my game and like I haven't got it signed yet, should I publish it myself? And usually my answer is, if you have to ask like if should I, the answer is no. Like if you want to be a publisher, like it's because you want to be a publisher. Like you should know that. So that's kind of like you have to really really want to be a publisher for it to be a good idea, or if you have other people on your team that can fill in some of the gaps that you might have, then it might work out for you. But yeah, it's a lot of work to do it. I think it's easier to be a designer than try to do everything yourself. So we did it all ourselves, but we have a team, and anything that we can't do in-house, we're going to hire someone that knows what they're doing to help us out. So
right, good stuff. Oh, we have a note here from Luke. Luke says, what did he say here? Oh, that's weird. There we go. A friend of mine, Lisa Myers, is an artist educator who works with food sovereignty and traditional food practices. She's on Anishinaabe and has a lot of stuff online. You check stuff out. So with regards to
very cool.
the game, there you go. There might be some nice links
awesome.
there
nice.
from the community. Excellent. So Lisa Myers, Myers. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Luke.
Cool.
That's an amazing
Thanks.
resource. Appreciate it. Cool. So we know what's coming out right now. Galactic Cruise Achievement Expansion on Kickstarter currently. So if you didn't get the first time around, go grab it. If you did get it the first time around, go grab the expansion. Help Kinson Keys make their dreams come true.
That's right.
I kind of want to sing the Love Boat theme song, but with the words Galactic Cruise. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know the Love Boat, but I certainly am. And it always seemed to me like, oh, it's a Love Boat in space. There you go. Is there like a cruise director like role where they like set up all the events that people do?
We have a cruise consultant, which is kind of more. It's kind of more of like a travel agent booking person than.
You need somebody directing all the events that happen on these cruises.
There's sort of like one of the expert abilities lets you have your expert trigger bonuses during a day in space. So like that is thematically sort of like a cruise director. You're getting more benefits from having somebody that runs it. But yeah, it depends on how you look at that, I guess.
All right. Well, we have come to roughly the 10 o'clock hour. We are going to say goodbye. And we loved having you guys here. I've loved watching your progress ever since like you first kind of came onto the scene. I think TK, you're the first of the group that I met, and it's been awesome just watching you guys grow. So congratulations on all your success. If you want to talk to me some more, you can reach me on Blue Sky at Senfeng Lim, Dreyer Inc. on all the things. Correct, George? You can talk
Pretty
to
much.
George. Yeah, and Meeple Syrup on all the things. Where do people reach out to you guys other than your Kickstarter?
Yeah, so like we're on Instagram, Kinson Key Games, and I don't know if we use Twitter much. Mainly Instagram, Facebook. Like you can look up Kinson Key Games or Galactic Cruise. Find us there.
Good. And if you want to email them and pester them with something, you can
we
email them at
always
info
reply. So
at games.com. There we go. KinsonKeyGames.com. Cool.
Yeah.
So next week, hey George, we actually have our next week lined up.
Yes,
How did that happen?
Just with our excellent planning, just in effect.
So who are we talking to next week?
We are talking to the team that put out Distilled.
We're good friends.
Again,
they love Dave.
Yeah,
big games and expansions. Sort of we're doing a bit of a theme, at least for these 2 episodes.
Yeah, seeing how people handle expansions and success and multiple Kickstarters and all these things. So it's great. Good timing. If you'd like to help keep the lights on, you can go support us at patreon.com/meeplesyrup. And that is all. So as always, I'm going to offer our esteemed guests the last word for final advice. What do you got for us, guys?
So Dennis stole mine halfway through this conversation.
Did I?
I'm going to say it again, just because this is my advice. So my advice is, I guess with anything in life, but especially for designing or publishing, is like don't do it alone. It's like that's been our biggest thing. Like when people come to us and ask us, what they can do or how they can get help, or they're stuck it's like, usually because they're working alone. And so my advice is always work with somebody. If it can't be like in a professional sense, like you can always have somebody that you pitch ideas off of and get feedback from. Because like, yeah, without our team, we definitely couldn't do it. So never work alone.
There you go. And Dennis, what about you?
My advice is less deep and meaningful. I was just going to say something that comes up a lot when, like Tika I definitely mention this while playing games. So if you're trying to win a game, a lot of things that I always say at the beginning of a game, I never want points. If something gives me points, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to do the thing that gives me a new ability, or I want to do the thing that improves my economy or something like that. And I guess part of winning is knowing when to switch to getting those points, because eventually you obviously need them. But I always joke, it's like, I don't want points. Never take points at the beginning,
So if you're trying to win, try not to get points.
But even, kind of. But even if you don't end up winning, I just find it's more fun to play that way anyway. But just remember to switch to points at some point, because that's all that matters in the end.
That is actually my one of my favorite things about a game is when there's and the two Americans on the show might not get this, but Dennis, you all 100% get this, is the TSN turning point. Do you remember TSN turning point?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's a turning point in a hockey game usually, where everything changed. It was going so badly, and then somebody made this great play, and then an avalanche of points came. And that's what I love about certain games. It's like when you can kind of feel like that feeling, oh, I need to pivot now, and you do it, and it pays off, and you win, and it feels so good. I agree that build up the infrastructure, and good things will happen, right? And I think that's why maybe you win all the games. Because you're not concerned about winning the games. The points just come when they come, man. Let the points flow. Right?
Yeah. Just let them come to you.
Right? Don't be a tryhard. Basically. All right, everybody. So next week we have Papers and Games Distilled coming on the show to chit chat with us. We'll see everybody in 7 days. George will be back, of course. And best wishes to you and Dennis, TK, and obviously Colton as well on your current Kickstarter. And we hope it does galactic numbers.
Thank you.
I couldn't quite do it. All right, everybody. We'll see y'all later. Good night.
Good night.